So, as I promised, I would not review The Rise of Skywalker, the final chapter in the Skywalker saga, until I had already seen it twice and had a couple of days to think on it. Now, spoiler-free version, we'll get into spoilers here in a little bit. I was worried after my first viewing because I didn't feel very much. It felt like a Wikipedia article to me because of the pacing of the film. I'm just not compatible with that kind of go style of storytelling. I get that that's JJ's style. And the co-writer on this, Chris Terrio, most of his scripts and films that I've seen are also that same sort of go style of storytelling, and that's just not really compatible with me. But with that being said, I did have a second viewing scheduled for Friday, which I decided to skip because, like I said, I felt like I needed more time to process all of the canon revelations in The Rise of Skywalker. So therefore, I decided to not go again until Saturday. It is now Monday night. I plan to go see it again next Sunday. And after my second viewing, I can say that I absolutely loved this film. It is not my favorite, but I genuinely like it. I think it's a fun Star Wars film. I think technically on a film level, if I'm trying to put on my fancy film critic hat, it's way too busy and has way too many plot conveniences and stuff like that, but I don't care. Star Wars has always had that, and that's just my jam anyways. Now that being said, I still do have two major criticisms of this film and a whole ton of different little nitpicks. But I'm only going to mention the two major criticisms, and that's simply what was done with the character of Rose Tico and the lack of a Poe-Finn romantic dynamic that I think would have been more rewarding. The Rose thing is simply that Rose is very much for me an embodiment of hope and kindness and, saving what you love, not fighting what you hate, and very Jedi-ish in her demeanor and her character. And I feel like she should have had a big hero moment somewhere in this film. My other major complaint is that we didn't get Finn and Poe as an item, and I think it might actually stem from Zori Bliss, because while I appreciated the interactions in between Zori and Poe, it kind of felt like it was just, we're going to throw in this random character that could easily do the same thing that Finn could do, but we're just going to make it a cool new character. Okay. To me, I feel like you could have reworked the script in a way to have Finn fulfill that role for Poe in order to build his character and have more drama and involve Finn more in the entire plot of the film. But with that being said, I still loved every single character in this movie. Now I know, probably, I take peeks at Twitter here and there, but I've banned myself from any more than 15 minutes of scrolling through Twitter each day. I know that the fandom must be on fire over this movie, and honestly, that's fine. I kind of encourage that. For the most part, I, who have very carefully curated his mutant block lists on Twitter, and I haven't even looked at Reddit, am not seeing anything crazy toxic. I've only seen a couple of really crazy out there stuff, and I appreciate a healthy discourse amongst Star Wars fans. I like to debate Star Wars with people, and there was no matter what, this film was going to do that. It's the final chapter of the Skywalker saga. Honestly, I'm not worried about what the fandom thinks right now. I'm just sharing my thoughts about this movie to you, and I want to talk about how much I loved so much of this movie. So, we're going to go ahead and hop into spoilers. Obviously, if you haven't seen the movie, A, why are you here? B, if you really don't want to know anything about the movie, that's fine. the shining light in this whole thing is Rey and Ben / Kylo. I was not a romantic Reylo shipper. I was a platonic Reylo type character, or type fan. And then that ending scene happened. That third to last scene. And it got to me. Even on my first viewing where, like I said, I was so emotionally overloaded that I just kind of went numb. I had so much anxiety that I just kind of went numb. And still, I was like, yes, cool, they kissed, yay! Which surprised the hell out of me. And Ben's turn was just absolutely perfectly done. That may just be because that's the first time it feels like that entire movie slows the down for 4.5 seconds, but that's okay. Just that triple whammy of Leia reaching out to Ben, Rey killing Ben and then saving his life, and then the ghost of Han, or the memory of Han, coming back to be with Ben. It was very much almost like Leia cracked his armor, Rey knocked him to the ground, knocked some sense into him, and then Han was there, the memory of Han was there to pick him back up off the ground and dust him off and send him on his way to go and face his destiny as a Skywalker, or as a Skywalker by blood. And that hit me in a really meaningful way. It's just another one of it's another telling of that Star Wars trope where it doesn't matter what you've done, you always have a choice to be better. It's never going to negate or make up for what you did before, but there's no other way to be. There's no other way to live. If you just sit there and obsess over your mistakes of the past, you're just going to continue to repeat the same sort of shitty behavior that caused you to be in such a dark place. It's that choice to be better, as Luke says in the Battlefront 2 campaign. And then Rey's journey, I was very... Wait, no, I don't... No, I liked Rey being a nobody. No. When the Rey Palpatine reveal happened, and I saw it coming from a million miles away. That's another thing about this movie that made me think, after first viewing. It felt very predictable, but once I started to really think about it and understand what the emotional reasoning behind making Rey a Palpatine, it does make sense. Rey has been working towards a place of belonging ever since TFA. She's been waiting on Jakku for her parents, and then she runs off with Han, and then Han gets killed, and then she goes off to meet Luke and tries to bond with him, but he's a depressed hermit. And then she does accept, okay, fine, I'm going to go and forge my own path after refusing Kylo at the end of The Last Jedi. But then we start this movie with Rey not feeling like she's ready to be the only hope, or the last hope of the Jedi, as the Crawl calls her. And it just flipping that nobodiness on its head and saying, okay, fine, Rey, you want some belonging? Here's your belonging. And take your place on the throne, Empress Palpatine. And that challenge to refuse your bloodline, not ignore, but refuse your bloodline as a Palpatine. Sundering Sheev Palpatine's legacy, remembering her parents for who they were, not for the name that they bared, trusting in herself and taking on the mantle of hope in the Skywalker name. Keep in mind, the Skywalker name was a legendary in the Clone Wars as the great Republic general, and then in the Galactic Civil War, Luke Skywalker was the lone Jedi leading the being a major player in the rebellion. And now in this generation, it's going to be Rey Skywalker. It was Rey Skywalker that finally put an end to the threat of the Sith. And while I understand the criticism that I've heard whispers of, that, oh, she never really acknowledged her parents and she's just burying her past and not accepting it, I completely disagree. The whole going off to Ahch-To was a magnificent way for me to have her break. She ran away. She was going to maroon herself on Ahch-To, just as Luke did, make the same mistakes Luke did, because she was afraid of herself. She didn't trust herself. She didn't believe in herself. She didn't trust in who she was as a person, even though that earlier on in the movie, she shows the kindest heart twice. Once with Dio, when Dio comes up and says, no, thank you. And she goes, oh, somebody must have mistreated you. I'm so sorry. Don't worry, you're with us now. And then she is the first person in the entire frickin' Skywalker saga to ever ask 3PO's opinion about something. She treats droids and humans with kindness, and any sentient with kindness. And it's about who you are and not about where you came from. Where you came from does define you in a way, yes. But it's about accepting that you were once a Palpatine, or you were born a Palpatine, but you're choosing to be a Skywalker. Your parents raised you to be a Skywalker. They sacrificed themselves like a Skywalker would. Skywalker is more than just a family name now. Skywalker is almost synonymous with Jedi in my mind. And honestly, it makes me like Rey that much more. Now, could I rewrite T-Ross in a way that would be more impactful for me, where she remained a nobody? Yeah, probably. I didn't make the movie. I haven't spent 25 years in the film and TV industry, so that's why Lucasfilm and Disney didn't call me the audacity. And the real loss of making Rey a Palpatine is the loss of the democratization of the Force that takes place in The Last Jedi, where it doesn't matter who you are, you don't need to be of a noble bloodline, you don't need to be born as something in order to become something. You can be a nobody and ascend to being a hero. And in my opinion, that's what Finn's purpose is in this film. Finn being Force sensitive, Jannah being Force sensitive. That whole bit where Jannah and Finn are talking about how they're Force sensitive, or they had a feeling, is a good thing, in my opinion. It's a good way to continue on that path that The Last Jedi laid out, where anybody, Broom Boy to deserter stormtroopers, can and will always rise up to face the evil in the galaxy. Poe's movement towards being the leader after Leia's death, Jesus Christ, that killed me. But Poe's character arc, while, like I said, he's kind of used a little bit as the, how should I say this? As he's used almost a little bit too much for comic relief for me, but I mean, it's really good comic relief. All of the jokes in this movie land perfectly for me. And I feel like his eventual landing, where he had he had to just lead the entire resistance and try and rally the troops into Exegol and lead the battle. And he had that horrible moment of despair when everything was failing and before the Free People's Armada showed up. And that hit me hard. In multiple different leadership positions in my life, I've felt like a failure because something terrible happens or something just not great happens, and it's because I've led the people that I should have been taking care of into a situation where there was no winning. And I empathized with that a lot, and I appreciated that a lot, that it doesn't just take raw courage, you need numbers. And boy, I'll tell you what, the waterworks for me started in the final third of the film. It was from Poe losing all hope to the entire free galaxy showing up. That's what I've always wanted. That's the number one thing I wanted. And for whatever reason, and even though that Solo was a fun film for me, it popped into my head like nothing. And boom, as soon as we got that shot that was in the trailer of the Falcon coming down and at the very front of the massive armada of just people, I swear to God, in just that one showing, they mixed in L3 screaming "Rebellion" in the or from Solo, and that got me. I mean, and then the First Order officer saying they're not a Navy, sir, they're just people. Exactly. Like that got me. That got me so emotional. Now let's talk about Ben's death for a second. Damn, I love Ben Solo. Him no-look shooting the stormtrooper. Him, the little shrug when he pulls the lightsaber. Just absolute perfect acting, in my opinion. He doesn't say a damn word after he becomes Ben Solo again. Adam Driver gives us Ben Solo without needing to say a single word. Every single time I think about Tyros, the very first thing that I think of is Ben standing there holding the saber, of taking up that his uncle's saber and his grandfather's saber before him, finally taking on the mantle of hero that he was put underneath massive pressure his entire life to do, finally having the strength to pick up that very, very heavy blade and just kind of looking at the Knights of Ren going like, and then going to town, like, and that puts a massive smile on my face. I don't think about all the little tiny nitpicks that I do have with this movie. I think about the Free People Armada. I think about Ben Solo kissing the woman of his life and the woman that helped save him from his own darkness. And I think about the burial of Luke and Leia's sabers. And I think about Rey's new dark cave vision where she runs into Dark Rey. I think about what I love about this movie when I first think about The Rise of Skywalker. And that means that it's got to be a relatively winning film for me. Again, I do not think that this film is ever going to top The Last Jedi or even Return of the Jedi. Well, maybe it might. I don't know. Like right now, if I had to say it, I would say that The Rise of Skywalker is definitely above Force Awakens for me. But I really like endings. That's my thing. Endings are what I like. I like having a sense of finality. And I think right now I'm sitting at like, it might even be like in the top 50% out of all the Star Wars films. I don't like to rank them, but again, it's never going to be my favorite, but I really do like this film right now, and I can't wait to go see it again on Sunday. And like I said earlier, I love endings. I love that sense of finality, and Rey burying both of her master's sabers, flicking on her own, taking on that mantle of Skywalker, looking out over that sunset, just as Luke did before that, the binary sunset of fate, as seen in Attack of the Clones, as Anakin charged towards his destiny, where he was going to make a choice, and where Luke looked, the same suns that Luke looked at right before he started his journey as a Jedi, Rey's looking out at that. And in my mind, is just after that iris in where we first get the end credits, to me, Rey looks down at BB-8 and says, okay, let's see what we can scavenge. Let's see what we can rebuild. Let's start figuring this out. Because I don't think that she's left alone on a desert planet. I think that she's the new hope. The entire Jedi Order, 1,000 generations of Jedi live within her now. And that's fantastic to me. I love that. I could talk about this movie for the next 3 or 4 hours. And I apologize to the podcast listeners because I think I was more negative on the film in the podcast that I recorded yesterday. Maybe I just need to get all my negative feelings out. But my camera batteries are getting close to dying. So, yeah. End of the day, I could sit here and complain about Snap dying and then his adoptive father and Wedge just kind of not noticing. I can nitpick about how I didn't appreciate the Chewie fake out, or if you're going to do the Chewie fake out death, then at least commit to it and don't give us, the audience, knowledge about Chewie's survival until Rey gets it. I could sit here and nitpick every single Star Wars movie. Last Jedi is my favorite, and I still don't like the way Luke tosses his saber over his shoulder like this. Toss it like that, in my opinion. But while it's fun to do that sometimes, while it's fun to nitpick and whine and moan about tiny little things that I don't like, that's not how I like to enjoy my fandom. I prefer to sit here and gush about all the things that I love. And like I said, keep in mind, I'll probably be doing little tiny Star Warsology videos for the next year just off this one film alone, and how it works together with The Last Jedi and how it doesn't work together with The Last Jedi and this, that, and the other thing. So keep tuned to this channel. And thank you guys very much for listening to me ramble on about The Rise of Skywalker, and I can't wait to see what we get next from Lucasfilm. As long as nothing bad happens, we'll see. So, with that being said, thank you guys very much. Let me know what you guys thought about the movie down below in the comments. Leave a like on the video. Lets me know that I'm doing the right thing. Check out the podcast feed. Links for that are in the description, etc., etc., etc. Self-plugging, self-promotion, and may the Force be with you guys. Take care.